Okay.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you are watching this in the afternoon. My name is Patti Sears. I am the director of the Representative Payee Program at Financial Pathways of the Piedmont. We handle Social Security benefits for individuals who are unable to manage those funds on their own. It can be due to issues of mental illness, substance abuse problems, intellectual or physical disabilities, and even chronic homelessness. And today, it is my great pleasure to have with us Andy Hagler, who is the Executive Director for the Mental Health Association of Forsyth County. And he has graciously said that he would be part of this today and share with us all the good works that he and the association are doing in the community. Welcome, Andy. I am so glad to have you with us today.
Great. Thank you, Patty. Good to be here.
Yay. Well, Andy, tell us a little bit about the Mental Health Association, all the good work you do. I'm not sure everybody knows what you do, but you do a whole lot.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, the Mental Health Association in Forsyth County has been around in Forsyth County since 1946. So it's been in the community for quite a while. And our focus has always been to be that advocacy arm on behalf of persons with mental illness, and also including for their families with mental illness, particularly for individuals who may be more on the moderate or on the severe end of mental illness. So kind of one of that component is of course that advocacy. So making sure that people with mental illness have access to employment, to educational opportunities, to work, to play, and to live life to their fullest extent. Kind of the second prong is also education, which is really out to the community at large, because 1 in 5 people, or about 20% of the population at some point in time, is affected by some type of mental health issue going on. And mental illness, just like any other illness, can run on a continuum. So about half of that 20% may be kind of more on the mild side, or maybe like an adjustment issue, grief, bereavement, the kids leaving home from school and you find yourself with an empty home, or adjustments to lifestyle. But then we also know that somewhere about half, or the other half, give or take, are going to be more on the moderate or severe end of mental illness. So it's very common. And so, but we also know that many people do not seek treatment. In fact, we know that somewhere close to about 60%, or over half to 60%, don't get any kind of treatment at all. And a lot of times that's just because of the stigma associated with mental illness.
Right.
It's really the biggest barrier to keeping people from either getting treatment or accessing treatment, as well as just kind of the public perceptions that a lot of times people still have about folks with mental illness. And then kind of the third leg of our work is really providing those support services that help supplement someone's clinical treatment. So we do run support groups. And of course, now for the last 14 months or whatever, they've been online and virtual. So we run support groups. We also, though, help people access services, because it's amazing how people don't know how to go about accessing mental health services. And again, kind of that support service side, or all the things that we can do through mental health court, and again, to really supplement a lot of times what people get in their clinical treatment through medication management, and so forth. So we've been here for quite a while. And again, it's that being the community connector, resource navigator, and kind of educator for mental health care and services here in Forsyth County. And really, our borders extend beyond Forsyth County. So really anybody who calls and asks for any help or assistance. In fact, yesterday I helped a family with accessing services in Davidson County. So we work beyond Forsyth County.
Yeah, I understand that. We do the same thing. Forsyth County is our main, group of people. That's most of our clients do live in Forsyth County, but you just can't turn down people that are, reaching out for help and need support. It doesn't matter,
Yeah,
wherever you are, when you're in this type of business, that's what you're going to do.
that's right. And so people, folks who live in Davie or Yadkin or Stokes, but I've even had. I remember it was only one time, but that's okay. I mean, but it happened. But it was an individual who lived across the border in Tennessee,
Mhm.
looking for services. And if you really come to think about it, we're not that far from Tennessee. And I've even had somebody who was in West Virginia, in that part of the state or whatever. Because really, if you kind of look at it, it's about a 2-hour drive from Winston-Salem, so from West Virginia. And the other thing that we also get a lot of times are calls from families, because especially if families had a loved one maybe with a severe mental illness. So oftentimes, we're seeing this happen a lot, it's usually the parents, the mother and the father, who have been the primary caretaker or support or advocate for their daughter or son.
Right.
And then, of course, as the parents are aging or may have died, or, one has died and another one's in assisted living, or whatever the situation is, then we also tend to get calls from one of the siblings. And to be very honest, it's usually one of the daughters or maybe the daughter-in-law, probably in about 8 times out of 10, although we, said but who are kind of working to help resume, being a caregiver to the best that they can for the loved one. And of course, that family member may live in the Northeast or in the Midwest or
Right.
whatever. So again, kind of working with the family that's going to take on that responsibility, maybe not to the extent that the parents did, but be that advocate for their brother or sister. But again, kind of navigating that while they're living a number of states away. So
Right.
it's very complex. I mean, and it's just part of human services.
Right.
And but again, providing that support, advocacy, navigating the system, what's out there, what's not out there, and as imperfect as this world is, again, trying to help people live the best that they can live.
Absolutely. And we are so lucky to have you doing that. And you are just a tremendous, tremendous asset to this community. I'm so grateful for you and all that you do. So the last year through the pandemic, how have things changed for you? What's been the biggest struggle? Um, it's been interesting. So I'd really like to hear your take on that.
Sure, sure. It's been very interesting, to say the least, but I'm not alone. Um, I think, the big push that we had, I know when the pandemic began, was really trying to push out a lot of education, fact sheets, kind of coping, and really trying to help people understand, the kind of what's going on, and even while we ourselves really kind of didn't know what was going on. So I think all of us, it's been a work in progress.
Yes.
And I think with the onset of the pandemic, rightfully so, we knew that a lot of the needs were going to be kind of basic human needs, your food, clothing, shelter kind of thing.
Mhm.
So like the representative payee services that we provide, which is on a much smaller scale than what y'all do, but that part has never stopped. I mean, that still goes on, and
Yeah.
bills get paid, and fortunately, and then through the same thing, grateful that, the folks you serve in that program and we serve, they've not been evicted.
Right.
They still have a roof over their heads. They still have electricity, heat, air conditioning, cable, medications, still access. So that part's been probably a blessing. But I think what has been challenging was one of the programs that we provided was we were the lead agency for a training that's called Crisis Intervention Team, or CIT. And that is a 5-day training that we're the lead agency for first responders. And it was a mental health education, de-escalation type training. And that included Winston-Salem police officers, Forsyth County sheriffs, our campus police, EMS, probation officers. Anybody considered to be a first responder can take part in this training. And so for many, many, many years, since 2007, we've been very fortunate of doing 4 of these trainings a year. Well, of course, here comes the pandemic. And I actually had a training like scheduled for the following week or whatever when when the pandemic started. And then of course, everything just stopped, everything halted. And I think just kind of like a lot of people, one day we were all working in our offices and the next day we were all working at home. And of course, so for a while, I had to halt the trainings just again, because the departments were not letting people do non-essential kind of trainings or whatever, or well, pretty much all training ceased. And of course, with the social distancing and all, because we would normally average somewhere around 30 or so trainees. So that was put on hold, and I'd actually had one, like I said, the week following when the pandemic hit, or when we went into lockdown, and then actually had 2 more trainings scheduled that I had to cancel. And of course, if I don't do the trainings, then we don't get paid. So or whatever. So let's just with the revenue loss and things like that. But we survived. And then of course, part of with the training was also trying to find training sites, because places just really closed down. Because I'd even thought about, well, I could make the class size much smaller and then allow the social distancing and things like that. But for a while, it was very, very difficult just even trying to find a place. But we did have a training in October of 2020. And we trained 10 SROs, school resource officers, because they wanted to have some of the SROs trained before anticipating schools opening up. So we did that, and the director of probation was very kind to letting us use the training room, and it allowed for social distancing and all that, and that was October. Now, the one challenge with CIT, it's not only just classroom lectures about mental health and de-escalation, but it's also knowing about community resources. And of course, before the pandemic, we would do a lot of field visits. Well, at that training, we were very, very limited in the field visits, just because, again, a lot of places were closed to the general public, rightfully so. So we used some videos, virtual, and then any of the presenters that we had that represented an agency, say like from Crossnor or whatever, we would allow them to talk a little bit about their agency. And then we actually did like some agency spotlights, and then made sure that we had lots of lists and resources there. So even though that part of the training we really couldn't do, or we were very curtailed, we still kept the fidelity of the training. So we had to just kind of learn to be very creative in some of the things. And actually, with that training in particular, we added in some new speakers, some presenters. So it worked. It worked. It was a little bit of a challenge, but it worked. But then as the pandemic was sort of going, just kind of as an example, sort of the up and down, we had planned one in November. And of course, by that time, that's when really the pandemic, I think, was really hitting very hard here and in this area. So unfortunately, of course, for safety reasons and all, we had to cancel it. And then we just thought, we're going to wait until the spring. And I'm glad that we waited because we had one actually 2 weeks ago. We trained probation officers. That went very well. And then I've got one scheduled towards the end of May. Again, we're keeping smaller classes, still keeping social distancing, even if people have been vaccinated, still wear the mask and safety precautions.
Right.
And as we're doing a training, then places are opening up to allow us to go there for site visits or to do some modified site visits. So it was that one particular training that we do, it was very challenging because a lot of that was kind of the heart and soul of what we do.
Right.
So, but that door for a while closed. It's starting to open up. But then something else I'd always kind of wanted us to do, because I have a master's in counseling and a master's in public administration. So part of me, the counseling side of me, and realizing that with mental health and the pandemic, mental health is gonna happen, but it's gonna be later. Food, clothing, shelter issues are going to come to the forefront, and mental health is usually going to come a little bit later. That's just kind of the way things sort of go. So knowing that was going to happen through some little grants, and then ended up getting a nice community grant for COVID relief, we actually have started up what's called a short-term counseling program. So where we can provide immediate short-term counseling services for individuals. And of course, to keep fidelity, one of the questions we ask is, how has COVID-19 adversely impacted your life and how has it? But is to provide counseling services for individuals to kind of go ahead and get them in. And then it's a two-pronged approach. One prong is during the short-term counseling process is to get them maybe connected to a provider for longer term services, whether they need to see a psychiatrist for medication or therapy for longer term or whatever. Or for some individuals, it may be that they just really need some short-term counseling. And when I say short-term counseling, we're talking about 7 sessions, give or take. So, for some people, it may be 5 sessions may work for them. Some people may need a little bit more than the 7, which is fine. And usually, unless it's way out there, I'll grant it, for the additional sessions or whatever. But it's to get people really accessed a little bit more immediate, because what we've also found out is that a lot of our typical counseling centers here in Winston-Salem Forsyth County, they're full, again, because of the impact of the pandemic.
Right.
So mental health is always kind of a ripple effect. And of course, we knew that we were going to have the quote unquote tsunami, and it hadn't really been like a tsunami, but we know that we've been hit, and people are really needing to get mental health work. So this was one way to kind of deal with it. So, you kind of have to look at it in the vein that, yes, we had a door that closed with the CIT trainings, but we opened up a window doing the short-term counseling. And, originally it was designed for individuals 16 and up, but we've been taking on kids, people who are a little bit younger. So I've had to get out of my comfort zone. But what we've learned, and in talking with parents and families, is that, my child did great in school, but with the pandemic and because of virtual learning and all, grades have just really dropped. Or the isolation because of the pandemic, my son or daughter's having more and more feelings of depression or whatever. So you know, it's just like I think everybody else. It's had its effects, and you know, but on the other hand, there have been some opportunities to serve and kind of to meet the needs. And like I've said, I've had to go out of my comfort zone, and it's working. And in fact, I'm going to try to work to see if I can get, you know, continuation of funds, and we'll just add this as part of our programs and services.
That's wonderful. It's all a part of what we do, you know, you just kind of ride that wave, you see where it goes. We learn along the way, but that is all kind of a blessing. When something bad happens, I've always believed this, you can find some good in it. And there has been some good in this, and we've found different ways of serving our community. And you guys have you've continued to do that. It's amazing.
Yeah, and well, and I'm sure just like with you all, and just with not only with the represented payees, you've stabilized clients and all, but also I'm sure on the financial pathways side of it too, work to help people from getting evicted or losing everything or
Right.
bad credit. So it's all a matter of you know, and it's not like it came overnight. I'm not going, you know, but it's where, you know, you adapt and work with the times, and then like I said, this was always something in the back of my head I've always thought about doing, and it's just the opportunity came, and we started off very, very, very small and piloted it out, and, you know, dipped our toes, and then we were able to get some funding to continue it, and hopefully even when that funding runs out, I'd like to be able to continue that, because, and for the individual, this is free counseling.
Wow.
The individual.
That's awesome. Andy,
And
that's really awesome.
it's free. So, and the 3 that I have contracted, they are licensed. So, you know, it's where doors close, but a window will open.
Absolutely. So part of this just confirms with me how important it is to have our community partnerships.
Yeah.
So when things like a pandemic happen, we're not in it alone. We have each other, the support of like, what did you do here? What do you do there? I think that our partnerships are invaluable in being able to serve our community. And I'm just so grateful for all that you guys do and continue to do. The CIT program, we've had the pleasure of having some officers over to help us in a couple situations, and you could absolutely see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
They were willing to step out of their comfort zone, help and support, help give suggestions to some of our clients. Well, here's some options of how we can handle this situation or this situation. It was support and help and advocacy, not just, you know, the police come and you're in trouble. It was very, very clear that that's something the community is going to benefit from. So again, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you took the time to be with us today. I look forward to being able to connect more and more and see what we can do to help each other. Anything that we can do to help you, we are here. Just let me know.
All right. Same thing goes here, and whatever we can do to partner, just give me a call. That's what we're all here for.
That is what we're all here for, Andy. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I hope
Patty.
you have a wonderful day, and hopefully we will talk soon.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Bye.